I still remember the smell. Burned plastic, wet concrete, and something else, something personal. My life. My name is Ethan Miller, and the night my apartment burned down, I learned exactly how disposable I was to my own parents. It was 2:17 a.m. when my phone rang. Not a ringtone, an emergency alert. Fire detected. Evacuate immediately. I was already awake. I'd been working late, trying to keep my freelance consulting business alive. Rent was due. Clients were slow. Life was heavy, but at least I had my small apartment. Or so I thought. By the time I opened the door, smoke punched me in the face like a fist. The hallway lights were dead. The fire alarm screamed like it was panicking too. I didn't grab anything. No laptop. No documents. No childhood photos I'd stupidly kept, hoping one day my parents might want them back. I ran. Outside. Barefoot on freezing asphalt. I watched flames eat the building I'd worked 10 years to afford. And that's when I called my parents. My mother answered on the third ring. "Mom," I said, coughing. "My apartment, there's a fire. I lost everything." There was a pause. Not shock. Not concern. Annoyance. "So?" she said. "What do you want us to do?" I laughed once. A broken sound. I need a place to stay. Just for a few days." She sighed, like I'd asked her for money. "Ethan, you're 32 years old. This isn't our problem." Then my father took the phone. "You always find drama," he said coldly. "We warned you about that place." Warned me? They had pushed me into that apartment because it was cheap. Because I wasn't worth investing in. "Dad," I said, my voice shaking. "Everything I own just burned." His response came fast. "Practiced. Figure it out." The call ended. Just like that. I stood there, wrapped in a firefighter's blanket, watching my past collapse while my parents slept comfortably in their gated home across town. That night, something inside me burned too. The next morning, I was interviewed by insurance adjusters, police officers, and finally, a man who didn't introduce himself right away. He wore a gray coat, sharp eyes, calm voice. "I'm Daniel Ross," he said. "Fire investigator." I nodded, numb. "Can you walk me through your relationship with the property owner?" he asked. "I am the owner," I replied. "Bought it outright 3 years ago." His pen paused. "You didn't have a mortgage?" "No." "And no co-owners?" "No." He looked at me longer this time. "Then why?" he asked carefully. "Does this building have a secondary insurance policy taken out 2 months ago, under your father's name?" The world tilted. "My father?" I repeated. "That's impossible." He showed me the document. There it was. Richard Miller, my father. Policy value, $1.2 million. My hands started shaking. "I didn't know," I whispered. "I swear I didn't know." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's what worries me, Ethan. I didn't confront my parents that day. I went to a cheap motel instead. Sat on the bed. Stared at the wall. Every memory suddenly rearranged itself. Why my father insisted I never rent out the apartment. Why he asked for copies of my deed for safekeeping. Why my mother kept pushing me to list the place, even when the market was down. They weren't disappointed in me. They were waiting. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "We heard about the fire. Terrible luck. Let us know when you get back on your feet." I stared at the screen and smiled, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't broken. I was angry, and somewhere in the city, a fire investigator was pulling threads my parents didn't even know existed. They thought the fire ended my story. They had no idea. It was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's name on that insurance document. Richard Miller. Printed clean. Legal. Intentional. By morning, I wasn't just homeless. I was suspicious. I met Daniel Ross, the fire investigator, at a small cafe near the station. He ordered black coffee. Didn't touch it. "Tell me something," I said. "Is it normal for someone else to insure a property they don't own?" "No," he replied instantly. "It's illegal. Unless there's consent. Or fraud." Fraud. The words sat heavy between us. Daniel slid another file across the table. "Your father didn't just insure the apartment. he said. He increased the policy twice. Once after you renovated. Once after you removed the old wiring. I frowned. How did he even know about the wiring? Daniel didn't answer right away. Ethan, he said carefully, has anyone else ever had keys to your place? My stomach dropped. My parents, I whispered. They insisted. For emergencies. Daniel nodded. That's what I thought. I drove to their house that afternoon. Not angry, not loud. Calm is scarier. My parents' home looked exactly as I remembered. Perfect lawn, white walls, security camera blinking like an unblinking eye. My mother opened the door and forced a smile. Oh, you're here already? She said. We thought you'd be dealing with things. I am, I replied. That's why I'm here. My father sat in the living room, reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. Dad, I said, sitting across from him. Did you insure my apartment? The paper lowered an inch. Why would I do that? He asked. I placed my phone on the table. Photo. Document. Signature. Silence. Then my mother laughed nervously. Ethan, don't be dramatic. Your father just wanted to protect the family. The family? I asked. Or your investment? My father stood up slowly. You wouldn't understand, he said. That apartment was wasted on you. You were barely making enough to maintain it. So you burned it? I asked quietly. My mother gasped. How dare you? I didn't say you did, I replied. But the investigator might. That was the moment their faces changed. Fear always shows itself, eventually. That evening, Daniel called me. Lab results came back, he said. Accelerant was used. Traces found near the electrical panel. My hands tightened around the phone. So it wasn't an accident. No, he said. It was planned. And my parents? I asked. There was a pause. They're officially persons of interest now. I checked into a longer-term rental the next day. Cheap, quiet, temporary. While unpacking the few things I'd salvaged, I found an old envelope. Inside was a deed, not for the burned apartment, for another property. A small house on the edge of the city. One my parents didn't know I still owned. I'd bought it years ago through a trust on advice from a mentor who once told me, never let people who look down on you know all your cards. Back then, I thought he was paranoid. Now, I thought he was a prophet. My father called that night. His tone was different, controlled, polite. Ethan, he said, this investigation is unnecessary. It could embarrass the family. I smiled. You said the fire wasn't your problem, I replied. So why worry? He swallowed audibly. Let's talk, he said, man to man. Oh, we will, I said. Just not today. I hung up. For the first time in my life, my parents were chasing me. And the fire investigator? He was about to uncover something much bigger than insurance fraud, because the fire wasn't the first thing they tried to take from me. It was just the first time they got caught. I didn't tell anyone about the second house. Not my parents, not my friends, not even Daniel. Some secrets are power, and power is best used quietly. The house sat on the edge of the city-old brick, wide porch. Nothing flashy. I'd bought it 5 years ago through a trust, back when I was still trying to prove to my parents that I was worth something. Irony is cruel like that. I moved in at dawn. No furniture except a mattress. No decorations. Just silence. For the first time since the fire, I could breathe. Daniel came by that afternoon. He walked through the house slowly, observant. The kind of man who noticed details others missed. You didn't mention this place, he said. I didn't think it mattered, I replied. He raised an eyebrow. Everything matters right now, Ethan. I handed him a folder. Inside were copies of emails, old renovation invoices, security camera timestamps from the burned apartment. Daniel's expression hardened as he flipped through them. Your parents accessed your apartment 2 nights before the fire, he said. I know, I replied. They said they were checking on me. He exhaled slowly. Ethan, this is no longer just insurance fraud. I leaned back. Then what is it? Arson, he said, with intent to profit. That evening, my mother showed up. Unannounced. She stood on the porch like she still owned me. "This place is modest," she said, stepping inside. "Is this really where you're staying now?" "It's mine," I replied. "That's enough." She sighed dramatically. "You don't have to be like this. We're still your parents." I looked at her carefully. "Funny," I said. "You didn't sound like my parents when my home burned down." She avoided my eyes. "We were shocked," she whispered. "We didn't know what to say. You said, 'Not our problem.'" Her lips trembled. "We were scared." "Of what?" I asked. "Losing me or losing the money?" That's when she broke. "You were never supposed to find out," she cried. Silence. My chest felt hollow. "Find out what?" I asked calmly. She froze. Too late. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't accuse. Didn't threaten. "That's how you really scare people." She left 10 minutes later, shaking, and I recorded every second of it. The next day, Daniel called. "We pulled bank records," he said. "Your father transferred money to a contractor 3 weeks before the fire." "For what?" I asked. "Electrical inspection," he replied. "The contractor denies ever doing the work." My jaw tightened. "So they paid someone off the books." "Yes," Daniel said. "And Ethan, there's more." I closed my eyes. "Go on." "Your father has done this before." The words hit harder than the fire. "Another property," Daniel continued. "Different city. Same pattern. Fire. Insurance payout. Case quietly closed." I laughed bitterly. "So this wasn't desperation," I said. "This was practice." That night, my father finally showed his hand. He didn't call. He came in person. He stood in my living room, looking smaller than I remembered. "You think you're smart now?" he said. "Playing victim?" "I didn't start this," I replied. "I survived it." He leaned forward. "You don't know what you're doing. If this goes public, it will ruin you." I finished. His silence was answer enough. "You taught me something my whole life," I said quietly. "That power belongs to those who take it." I stood up. "And I'm done letting you take from me." 2 days later, Daniel filed for arrest warrants. My parents didn't know yet, but they would. And when they did, they'd finally understand. The son they called uneducated, the life they called worthless, was about to burn their entire world down. Legally. The knock came at 6:17 a.m. Not loud, not aggressive, professional. That's how authority sounds when it already owns you. I wasn't there to see it, but Daniel was. He told me later. "Your father opened the door in his robe," Daniel said over the phone. "He thought it was a delivery. I imagined it clearly. My father once untouchable, once feared, now confused. 2 fire investigators, 1 detective, a warrant, and the truth, printed neatly on official paper. By noon, everyone knew. The neighbors, the board members, the friends who had smiled at my parents' dinner parties for years. News spreads faster when rich people fall. Prominent businessman under investigation for insurance fraud and arson. They didn't use my name. Not yet. My mother called me 12 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails instead. "Ethan, please. This has gone too far. You don't understand how this will look. We did this for the family. For the family. The same family that told me my burned home wasn't their problem." I deleted every message. That afternoon, Daniel and I met with the fire investigator, the same one who'd looked me in the eye weeks earlier and said, "Something doesn't add up." He slid a folder across the table. Photos, receipts, phone records, and a confession. Not from my father, from the contractor. He was promised cash, the investigator said. "No paperwork. Just make it look like an accident." My hands trembled slightly. "Why confess now?" I asked. The investigator leaned back. "Because your father tried to throw him under the bus." I closed my eyes. Even now, my father was still burning others to save himself. The arrest happened that evening. Cameras everywhere. My father didn't resist, didn't shout, didn't threaten. He just looked straight ahead as the cuffs closed. My mother screamed, not for him, for herself. That night, I finally felt it. Not victory, relief. I sat alone in the quiet house, staring at the walls. No fire marks, No smoke, no lies, just space. And for the first time, peace didn't feel temporary. But it wasn't over, because the next morning, my father asked to see me. Just you, his lawyer said. Daniel warned me. I went anyway. He looked older behind the glass. Smaller. I never thought you'd do this, he said. I met his eyes. You never thought I could. Silence. They'll take everything, he whispered. The company, the house, my reputation. I leaned forward. You already took everything from me, I replied calmly. I just stopped letting you. His voice cracked. I'm your father. I stood up. And I was your son, I said, until you set my life on fire. As I walked out, I didn't look back. Some endings don't need witnesses. Outside, reporters shouted questions. I ignored them all, because the loudest moment was still coming, the one my parents never prepared for. The truth, spoken publicly, with no fire left to hide behind. The day of the public hearing arrived. My parents thought they could control the narrative. They thought money, influence, and old connections would protect them. They were wrong. I didn't go in shouting. I didn't need to. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashing, reporters murmuring. All eyes were on the Miller family. Except mine. I was only looking at Ethan. When my father walked in, he carried himself like the CEO he had always been. Confident, composed, untouchable. But I saw it. The tremor in his hands, the slight shift in his posture. For the first time, he wasn't in control. The hearing began. Evidence laid out meticulously. Receipts, emails, bank transfers, contractor confessions. Daniel Ross, the fire investigator, presented the timeline of the arson and fraud. Every point he made was precise. Every fact punctured the story my parents had tried to spin for years. When my father was asked why my apartment had been insured in his name without my consent, he faltered. He hesitated. He looked at me, as if silently begging for mercy. I leaned back in my seat. I didn't speak. I let the silence speak. The prosecutor's words were sharp. The defendant used his daughter's property to secure financial gain, knowing full well she would have no access to the insurance proceeds. This is a calculated act of betrayal. Whispers ran through the room. Even some of my father's old business allies exchanged uneasy glances. Then came the moment my mother realized her complicity had been documented. Her face went pale. She looked at me helplessly. I didn't flinch. Finally, the judge turned to my father. Mr. Miller, the evidence is clear. You and your spouse committed multiple counts of fraud and arson. Sentencing will follow, but your reputation is already ruined. My father swallowed. His empire was crumbling, his pride shattered. His control? Gone. After the hearing, reporters pressed questions. I didn't speak. I walked out with Ethan beside me. We didn't need to explain anything. Our victory wasn't in words. It was, in truth, revealed. It was in the quiet confidence of knowing we had survived betrayal and come out unbroken. That night, I looked at Ethan. He smiled, calm as ever. You okay? He asked. I'm free, I said. Not because my parents were gone, not because justice had been served, but because I finally realized I had never needed their approval. Weeks later, the media continued to cover the story. Headlines screamed, Miller Empire Scandal. Daughter stands tall after parents' crimes. Fire investigation uncovers decade. Long fraud. And still, my name stood apart, untouched by their lies, untouched by their greed. I was finally my own person. My parents? They were forced to watch the life they tried to control crumble piece by piece. Their pride could not protect them. Their money could not save them. And their threats? Completely powerless against the truth. I never spoke to them again. I never took their calls. I never took their name. Because some people teach you who you really are by trying to destroy you. And I learned, power isn't inherited. It's earned. Respect isn't demanded. It's commanded. And revenge doesn't need to scream. It only needs patience.